Welcome to RSA Conference 2024. We're recording live from Broadcast Alley at Moscone West. I'm your host, Mike Shima. I'm here with Mike Fay, CEO and co-founder of Island. Mike, we're here to talk about enterprise browsers, and I personally probably live most of my working day in a browser, whether it's documents, email, etc. That's where security is important these days, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you think about it, back when you and I started, we had DOS, and then Windows was on top of DOS. Well, now that's almost the way the browser is. Browser's on top of Windows or on top of the Mac OS, and that's our new OS. And as a result, it provides a massive opportunity to upgrade our experience and our security, but also challenges and fears and concerns.
Just a few challenges, yeah. And I think probably fair to say these days most attackers, they don't necessarily want root on your laptop. They want that cookie out of your browser. They want that access in your browser, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm curious. So everybody needs a secure browser. They want a secure browser. What's that distinction then to say enterprise browser?
So I think when you really think about what an enterprise browser is, it's a realization that our businesses spend 80+% of their time in the browser, our users. And that browser was built for consumers, built for 5 billion consumers, and the lowest common denominator out of 5 billion consumers. So the knowledge worker wasn't left with a lot of tools, a lot of help. We have a browser that is quick to finish your shopping list and give you your home address and your credit card number. But that call center worker that's been copying and pasting the same things 50 times does not get help.
Right.
They are still opening up VPNs, and they have to have MDMs, and they get backhauled to web filtering. Then they get put on Citrix, and all this stuff gets piled and piled on, and their experience and productivity just keeps getting beaten down. So the enterprise browser says, what if we took that wonderful browser, and thanks to the Chromium open source project, we use the same rendering, the same look, the same feel, but we build into it the end user experience components. We build into it the needs of the business. We get them in more capabilities, but then we also make it more secure. And it's the combination of those three, which really is kind of the future of cybersecurity, not being a one-off, bolt-on, but being a built-in solution, a comprehensive, single-threaded solution. So the enterprise browser is the statement that those three matter. It's not just one of the constituencies matter.
So, and clearly too, you don't need to re-implement how to build HTM. You're re-implementing what the users are needing. And you mentioned that user experience, but I don't think the individual enterprise users are the ones that are say, oh, throw this on my credit card, I want to buy this.
Right.
There's other players here that is clearly appealing to. Tell us about that.
So when you think about those constituencies, let's start with obviously cybersecurity. Having it rethought on how an enterprise wants to work. Even password managers can integrate it to it rather than bolt on. But changing the way the encryption on the solution works, changing the way that keystrokes are entered into the browser, and can somebody sniff that? Can they actually see that? And then rethinking the way data works. So we worked with one organization, very large chain, and they had almost 5,000 rules trying to keep customer data inside their ecosystem. All were replaced by one simple statement. Data in Salesforce can't leave Salesforce. It was gone. That was the done of those rules. So by having control over what happens in that last mile, you can rethink a lot of use cases, BYOD, contractor, but you also can rethink call centers and point of sale solutions. You can start getting people off VDI that don't need that bad experience and that hyper expense. And then you start to think about disaster recovery and the ability to move devices quickly. Then you add on the productivity to the end user. And then you start giving tools back to the business. Instead of having a bunch of end user monitoring tools, the browser tells them what the end user is experiencing. You want to build automation. You don't have to just do it at the API level. Now you can automate right at the end user and bring them into that process. So there really is a massive amount of tech per constituency that we bring to bear.
So, and it sounds like that, especially a lot of what you're saying returns to the user, that positive user experience. And that to me resonates because we have shadow everything. We have shadow cloud these days, shadow administration.
Yep.
We don't have shadow browsers, but people will work around it, right?
Sure.
Like just copy and pasting, things like that.
Yeah.
I imagine too, I'm a big fan, let's have passkeys, let's have strong multi-factor authentication. I suspect there's still shared passwords out there though, because not all these SaaS apps support them, things like that. So that's got to be something where this type of approach can help, right?
It can, but beyond just the sharing passwords, now we can rethink how we say contractors. We let a contractor log into the browser. When the browser comes up, it can inspect their machine, like an MDM would, understand if the machine is sitting in a state you care about, and then with dexterity decide what is appropriate based on the situation, based on the network, the machine. What do I want to give them access to? Is it read-only? Is it full access? But then we can have the passwords to move into those actually unknown to the contractor. So the contractor logs in, then we can actually have the browser make the next login, so we can keep them at an appropriate level of control. So we reduce that whole password experience, but we also can do anomaly detection in a way others can't. Anomaly detection, for the most part, has to be done on the back-end infrastructure. We're able to do it at the actual edge and understand what's really going on with the user. Are they where they were yesterday? What does this really look like? So we don't have to rely just on passwords to authenticate an individual or just on a network path. We can take the whole capacity into effect.
So it sounds like then, especially the monitoring, looking for anomalies, classic, computer security, cybersecurity team looking at that.
Yeah.
But it's also the security team typically, in my experience, has been working with the engineers, talking about the products and application security. Who gets pulled in to actually make these decisions about this is the browser to use, this is how we're rolling it out?
Yeah, so usually it's a combination effort, right? The security team will look at it and say this would be an upgrade in our security posture. We'd love to see this. And they're the ones that put the regulations or requirements that often produced other things like VDI to call centers or on tablets or wherever it showed up. So they bring that to the CIO. The CIO is grateful that, wow, I can deliver a better end user experience and save a ton of money to the organization.
Be happy, right?
So the CIO often ends up the owner, but it's the CISO sponsorship that's very important in that, and together they get a better solution for both. And it's one of the things I really love about working in this space is it's no longer security against the business or the end user against security. We're going to upgrade everybody in one step and be able to have a positive experience. And that crawl, walk, run through that journey, we can keep delivering along the way. One of the biggest use cases we have, we call Say Yes. And it's the CISO's ability to say yes to whatever the question is. If you want to use LinkedIn and have private messaging, great, we can audit it with the browser. You want to you want to engage a Chinese workforce, but you don't want to cross, the Great Firewall. You can still push policy local and do that, and you can handle the different regulations and data requirements, country by country, because you're not pulling it back to a central source. You're doing it at the actual browser location, so the policy runs local. So we see the cybersecurity teams being a huge benefactor, but massive ROI back to the business.
And that's got to be compelling too, because it sounds honestly simple,
yes.
Right? You're rattling off, VDI, all these other things, jumping through this hoop, this other hoop. But if it's just a browser, and it sounds dismissive, but just a browser sounds so easy.
It's very easy to deploy, very easy to imagine, very easy to start off with. You can build a very comprehensive solution with it. But the reality is, we had one organization that was attacked and they were shut down, almost 10,000 individuals. They pushed this out and got themselves back up on alternate devices over a weekend. We were there, they basically took the whole company BYOD overnight.
Sure.
So it's a very easy process to roll out, but it's a massive platform. So as you want to start displacing technologies, reducing that technical complexity and that footprint, it can grow with that. Or you can just integrate it into your existing stack and make it stronger. It's really where are you at in your own journey.
Yeah, because I can't imagine people aren't used to using browsers. So this isn't a tool that they're like, wait, we have to train them on this or something like that.
Definitely no training needed. But the first time somebody sees a 50 copy paste buffer, realizes it's not just that, they get excited. The first time they see a number pulled off a VoIP call and the information of a customer filled out, they love that. And then finally, when they don't bring up a VPN and the passwords just work and it's on their phone and it's on their tablet and they can deploy it wherever they want, it becomes something that grows very quickly in an environment. But you're right, there's a native intuition of how to do it, how to work with it. And that's a beautiful thing from a cybersecurity business enablement of that end user.
And there's got to be, in the idea of, often security shows up, there tends to be pushback. What will this do? Is this going to, from the developer side, is it going to slow down my build? Is it going to slow me down? Is it going to impede me? Call center, I have to handle this call within a 60-second time frame. I can't imagine that's the kind of pushback you get here, though, because it's
usually
browser,
we speed things up dramatically, and we give them control they never had. I mean, if you just think about it, the browser services in so many different ways, but it was never built for you. If you had a company well-funded, fully dedicated to just what you do as an enterprise, you will find there are opportunities to add value to everybody in that stack every day. And we get thousands of feature requests from our customers now.
Imagine.
And they're all about, if you did this, we could get rid of this. I wouldn't have this problem anymore. I could resolve this. And so it's becoming this massive platform driven by our customers to their enjoyment and outcome of doing their job.
And there's got to be like just a massive network effect, because you don't need to do this one deployment is using LinkedIn. Lots of people are using LinkedIn. Lots of people are using Salesforce. So one feature request over here, I'm going to imagine, helps this other population. Right?
Very much. It's, we had a great vision to get the browser to, if you will, 200-300 customers. Mm-hmm. Now what's driving it are all these users that are bringing us back, all these brilliant features that we can continue to build in for their benefit. And you're right, there is no end in sight of what can be done.
And a lot of the things that my mind immediately is going to the end user, making that end user experience. But you touched on a little bit already. There are benefits to the enterprise as well.
Yes.
You mentioned just password management, the asset inventory being a rollout to fleet. DLP seems another one that I always have to pay attention to. That it tends to be other teams of data privacy team, data security, but it just goes beyond security, right?
Yeah. If you think about, let's enable some contractor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going to ship them a laptop. It's going to have an OS on it. We're going to put security on it. Then we're going to push MDM. Then we're going to push a VPN. Then we're going to backhaul their traffic for web filtering. If we really are nervous, we might even put them on VDI into that process. Then we'll push a password manager. Then we'll do compliance and audit checking. Everything I just said is not required. Literally, that's just the browser doing that.
And that just seems faster, easier.
It's wildly faster.
The vendor experience must just be that.
And the cost is wildly different. And so these cybersecurity budgets that are challenged, yes, they grow, but the demands on them are ridiculous. Mm-hmm. We give them oxygen back. Finally, they can stop. They can turn off some tool sets and spend that money on all the great tech we see here at a show like this. So it really provides oxygen back into the system.
Yeah, and I think, you and Island have gotten some great validation of this, right? Yeah. You just had a great investment recently.
We did. Yeah. We just got valued at $3 billion, which is quite an honor. It's double our last valuation, and in this market, an up round is something that you should take serious, much less up round by $1.5 billion. So, and that came on our customers. Yes, we performed, yes, we've delivered, but what drove it was just the wins at the customer and the value we were driving. When you hear that value, kind of like what you said, well, that could be anywhere. Mm-hmm. It's not unique to that financial firm or not unique to that healthcare. Like, who doesn't have that challenge? And that's what we found. Literally, there isn't a vertical that we don't have a couple of the top 10 in. And I don't think there's a vertical that we can't be at the 100-person company. So it really spans the gambit of size.
That's amazing. I think, to me, what makes me happy is that we're talking about security that is making users happy. So
yes.
Definitely appreciate that. That's a breath of fresh air at this day and age.
It is different, yeah.
Well, thank you, Mike. We are out of our own time here, but this was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
To find out more about Island, visit securityweekly.com/island, RSAC. And stick around. We're going to have some new interviews coming up now after this break.